Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Breakout candidates for this Michigan program heading into the 2024 season. Dill, you have four, I have four. Going to debate some breakout guys. I think this is one of the more exciting conversations that you can have for this Michigan program. You lose a lot of NFL talent to that draft, but Dill, you look at Michigan has done a phenomenal job keeping these guys within the program, right? As a lot of other Power 5 programs lose their 2 and 3 deep to the transfer portal, Michigan largely keeping all of these guys coming into the 2024 year, which leads you to have a roster full of breakout guys. Going to get into some of our favorite ones. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out to the Michigan fans. As always, it has been an extremely busy last couple of weeks for Michigan. Many of you guys know the fellas are massive Michigan fans. Nothing we like more than talking Michigan football. The amount of support the Michigan fans have shown truly does mean a lot. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, Dill, you have four, I have four. We're going to be sleeping on some players. Would love to hear some of your breakout candidates in the comment section. Dill, I'm going to give you the tee box. Let's start on offense. Your first breakout player for the Michigan Wolverines.
And I think I'm going to be starting on the offensive line again. Obviously, got to kind of roll in a whole new group, but I think you've seen enough from certain guys. I'll lead it off with Greg Crippen. I thought what you saw from him when he gets his opportunity to go in the back half of some of those games where Michigan was up, I think you're going to have a really polished, clean center. And again, it's been something that's been big for Michigan for the last 2 years. That center spot, having a guy you can rely on, doesn't make mistakes, really kind of that veteran presence. As much as Greg Crippen hasn't really played, I'm really looking forward to him. And frankly, I think he might have a little bit more upside than maybe the last two they had in Olu and Drake Nugent. And those two are awesome. But man, Greg Crippen, when he's been playing, I thought it's looked really good.
What a better kind of group of guys to learn from than, I mean, going back to Andrew Vastardis when he was a freshman, and then you roll in Olu, who was one of the best centers in the country. Drake Nugent obviously has played a ton. Greg Crippen has learned from some of the best centers in college football, and a guy going into his fourth year of this program, you're kind of excited to see what he has. Dill, I'm going to stick with that class, going to a guy going into his fourth year. You talk about, being patient, right? Greg Crippen, guys like Giovanni El-Hadi, who I'm going to go with, on most programs, they're probably transferring out, going out and starting at other Power 5 programs. Let's put it frankly, these two guys probably starting on most Power 5 programs across the country. They wait their turn. They kind of trust the process. They trust the recipe of, hey, you stay at Michigan, you're going to get developed into an NFL caliber offensive lineman. Right next to him, Giovanni El-Hadi. Dill, you have seen he's kind of been like the sixth man, right? When there is a reserve that needs to come in, it has been Giovanni El-Hadi at that inside of the offensive line, a guy that continues to impress me in spring practice. And I just love the narrative. Oh, Michigan losing all of their starting offensive linemen from last year. They're going to be poor up front. You have guys like El-Hadi, like Greg Crippen, who've been just waiting in the wings, and I think are guys that are really just going to take off right off where guys like Zach Zinner and Trevor Keegan have left this offensive line.
And that's what you're looking for. Because, again, I think like you could go with both those guys. I think those two are the ones who really stand out when you kind of get to watch them. And, again, limited sample size to an extent. But, again, in that Nebraska game, for example, played a fair amount against some solid defensive linemen. Both looked the part. Both physically looked like they were right there. And, again, at this point, if you're in the program this long, you shouldn't have any issues with making mistakes. So I think they can play a clean game. And I think both are NFL-type athletes.
100%. Giovanni El-Hadi, like 6'5", 320. That dude is legitimately a brick house. Still, one other guy that this just kind of paints the picture of, I don't like how good this Michigan offensive line is. Raheem Anderson. I'm not necessarily sure where he slots him, but a guy that you look at the transformation he's made with his body, and that tells you how good this Michigan offensive line is. I don't even know if Raheem Anderson starts for Michigan. Another guy that is surely a breakout candidate for Michigan. Dill, sticking on the offensive side of the football, your next breakout player in 2020.
I think you have to go Tyler Morris. I think he has to be that number one guy, and I'm a big Samaj Morgan fan. I like what they do with him. I like how he works out of the slot and can do a little bit more, maybe with the ball in his hands. But in terms of pure wide receiver chops, really good smooth mover, really good acceleration with the catch, as we saw in that Alabama game. I think we're all looking for Tyler Morris to have a monster year and really step into that number one role.
Tyler Morris was a guy that you saw him make that play against Alabama. Like, why are we not seeing more Tyler Morris? But it turns out, I mean, like Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, they go to the Senior Bowls, they go to those some of those, I guess, All-Star Bowl classics, and I mean, they take over. Like, I think guys like Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson were just two wide receivers that were really hard to keep off the field. Obviously, Colson Loveland at tight end. There is not a lot of room for some of those young wide receivers to step up. But guys like Tyler Morris, guys like Samaj Morgan, going to get their chance in 2024.
And especially as Tyler Morris develops more, just like that understanding of where he's got to be in terms of, again, what kind of Roman Wilson really started to do well as a senior or towards the end of his career, where it wasn't just about the athleticism that he had, but really good finding where he had to be in being JJ's guy, for example. I think, like, again, with the new quarterback situation, hopefully Tyler Morris can take that mantle over and be like the comfort blanket, because I think he's the best pure wide receiver on this team, and I'm not sure how close it is.
I agree. I think Samaj Morgan is much more your speed and space. Like, hey, we're going to try to get the football to him by any means possible. You talk about polished wide receiver one, it's going to be Tyler Morris in this offense, I would think. Dill, I'm going to go. You could quantify this as a breakout. I know I'm pushing the envelope here. Kaleb Mullings. This is a guy that, I mean, he's really only going into year 1.5 as a running back. Obviously played linebacker to start his career. This is the Michigan fans who've been listening for a long time. You guys know Blake Corum is probably in the top 5 of my favorite all-time Michigan Wolverines. If you were to ask me, who is the best pure ball carrier for Michigan in 2023, Dill, Kaleb Mullings, on a small sample size, is throwing his hat into the ring. 36 carries for over 220 yards, average 6.2 yards per carry. Here's the kicker. You talk about a former linebacker making the move to running back. He runs like a linebacker. 4.14 yards after contact. Dill, he averaged more yards after contact than a lot of running backs do per carry. This is a guy that you look at how Michigan wants to run the football. They want to be physical. They want to be between the tackles. Kaleb Mullings is that guy. He's a straight battering ram. And again, yes, he's an older player, but he's a guy that is just learning this running back position again at the college level. I think Kaleb Mullings could be your leading rusher for this Michigan team, and that's not necessarily a shot at a guy like Donovan Edwards, who I think we use in a little bit more of diverse ways in 2024. Though Kaleb Mullings is an absolute dude at that running back spot. Forced 10 missed tackles on the season on only 36 carries. I am fired up for what you could potentially see. I think you're going to see a little Alex Orji, Kaleb Mullings, Donovan Edwards backfield, and that is a very exciting proposition for Michigan fans.
I mean, because Mullings runs the ball the way Michigan needs to run the ball.
Yes.
I mean, ultra physical. I think, again, you kind of compare him to maybe Corum. Probably doesn't have the lateral quickness and some of that one – or not that one, but that ability to make guys miss in the phone booth. But again, when he gets going, he can make the one cut. And when he gets a little bit, I think he's got a little more acceleration, maybe a little more pop to him in terms of hitting those big, big plays. I'm with you. I think he should have been running the ball more. Frankly, last year, I'm really excited.
And you talk about what's so special, like what made Blake Corum so special was not the home run runs that he had. It was more of the, hey, I'm going to turn a 3-yard carry into a 5-yard carry. I'm going to turn a 7-yard carry into a 9-yard carry by falling forward, absorbing contact. Kaleb Mullings, I think, can do that at a higher level, and that's not a knock on Blake Corum. Kaleb Mullings is just a bigger guy. This dude is an absolute kind of Mack truck running the football. I think Kaleb Mullings is in for a big year. He is a guy that, again, has kind of broken out. I want to see him get like 15-plus carries a game because he's a guy that's just going to wear on defenses. You don't want to tackle a guy like Kaleb Mullings 10-plus times. All right, Dill. Going to the defensive side of the football, I got a couple names. Again, you return a ton of talent on the defensive side of the football. I'll give it to you first breakout candidate for this Michigan defense.
You know who I'm really looking for to have a huge year is Jaden McBurrows. I think the way they need to replace what Mike Sanders still did in that slot, he was as important to this program, I think, as anyone, and what he did and how consistent he was tackling. And also his like sense of where he's supposed to be. And that's where I think Jaden McBurrows, I think you're really kind of looking for. Again, that role, like Gotta be good in man, gotta be good in zone, gotta make tackles. Like,
Yeah.
you just need to do everything, and I think you started to see a little bit of that with McBurrows. I mean, that play against Maryland, that physicality to take on blocks, that ability to cover. Again, I'm not sure he's gonna be that outside guy. I'm not sure he has the long speed to do that, but really looked pretty comfortable in man, really looked like he had a good sense of where he should be in zone to make plays on the ball. I mean, he's gotta have a big year because someone's got to replace what Mike Sanders has done for the past couple.
Really good short area quickness. Then that's what you need at that nickel roll. Dill, I love that shout out because you talk about unsung heroes, and I think Mikey Sandstrom made a name for himself, but I think that first year of him playing nickel in 2022, people just didn't give him enough credit for, in my mind, being the best nickel back that you saw across the whole entire country. That's a really important position in the modern day of college football, right? When you're trying to match all the speed, especially with some of these Pac-12 teams coming in, Oregon, USC, but also have guys that can be physical in the run game. You got to have good nickels. Jaden McBurrows, I think, could be a good one. Dill, I'm going to throw out a guy that I think maybe competes with Jaden McBurrows for that nickel spot, Zeke Berry. This was one of my favorite guys out of that 2021 class for Michigan, a guy that I think could play the deep safety role, could play that nickel role. I kind of view him as a kind of another Keon Sabb, where you just got to figure out how to get Zeke Berry on the football field. And if you do so, I think he's going to be a really good player. I'm not really sure where he slots in because I think you got your safety positions kind of locked down with Rod Moore, Makari Page. So he might need to kind of kick down to that nickel, might kind of play that role like that Keon Sabb did, just playing him all over. Wherever you play him, I think you're looking at a special athlete, kind of a chess piece of a defense. And we already talked about Wink Martindale, like getting extremely versatile with your personnel, a lot of different looks. Zeke Berry, I think, fits right into what Wink wants to do on defense.
And it's hard to say you might not even have more of a 3-4 safety look, especially given that last year they had Mike Barrett and Junior Colston, and they really didn't like taking those two off the field for a good reason, especially Mike Barrett being a little more comfortable playing in space, being in coverage. I mean, who's to say that they don't maybe play a little more safeties? Because I think you look at that room, that's probably the strongest part of the team. You just look, it's really deep, really talented. Those top two they're as good as anyone in the country. So I mean, there's probably that part for Zeke Berry. It might be hard to get on the field to an extent, but if he's really good, if he can play in the box and be physical, who's to say he doesn't get kicked down and they just
it's going to be it's a good problem to have, but it's I wouldn't even classify it as a problem. It's just something that Wink Martindale and that defensive coaching staff is going to have to figure out. Is you have guys like Makari Page, Rod Moore, Jaden McBurrows, Zeke Berry, all of which do a lot of different things at an extremely high level. Dill, maybe Zeke Berry was going to take over Keon Sabb, and so that's why Keon Sabb goes to Alabama, but Zeke Berry stays the course. I don't know about that. You guys know I love Keon Sabb, but Zeke Berry is special, and I really hope that they figure out a way to get him on the field because I think he can impact games. Dill, number 2, impact or breakout player for this Michigan defense.
I'm really looking forward to see if TJ Guy can make a name for himself. And again,
yeah,
I think you look at that defensive end room, I don't think you can call Josiah Stewart or Derek Moore breakout guys.
No.
They both were very dominant last year. I think Josiah Stewart might be in that like 10 plus sack range on the year.
Agreed.
I think he's got that type of juice. Probably the best pure edge rusher since 2021 that Michigan's had in terms of his flexibility and that dynamicness that he has on the edge. But I think TJ Guy, you just look at the end of that Michigan State game when he got a shot to burn it, really, really good, really, really flexible. I thought in terms of like some things you didn't always see from guys like Harrell or Braden McGregor, and those two are great. I'm not taking away anything from them, but that ability to get on the edge, dip and rip, those type of things you see from like the Von Millers, I think you saw the flashes of that. And I don't want to like kind of imply that he can't play physical too, because he can get his hands on guys, good length, good strength, and he was doing his thing. I really think that, again, you know that Michigan wants to play a lot of defensive linemen. I think he's going to get a shot. I'm really looking forward to see what he can do with it.
That's one of the biggest storylines that we have for this Michigan team is what does the depth look like at that edge rusher position? Because you said it best. Like Michigan pretty much evenly played 4 edge rushers last year. You lose 2 of them. And a guy like TJ Guy, another guy that I love him because he was sitting behind 4 NFL edge rushers last year. He has every reason and the right to go out and test the waters and go play and get opportunity. to go play at other schools. He stays the course going into his 4th year. I like that shout out. I think he's probably that third edge rusher for this Michigan team, and he's going to play a lot because Michigan cycles those guys in and out. TJ Guy, a nice shout out. I'm going to go to the boundary cornerback position where you got to try to replace Josh Wallace. You have one side of the field locked down with Will Johnson, the best in the game at cornerback. All right, who's stepping up on the other side? Give me Jair Hill. And the people who listen to me talk on the recruiting trail, Jair Hill, checks every box that you want as a cornerback. He's got the length. He's got that fluidness in the hips. The long speed's there. That was a massive win for Michigan in that 2023 class. Played a little bit as a true freshman. And Dill, quite frankly, really impressive. ECU, UNLV. Again, he's only been on campus for a little bit and played really well in kind of that garbage time-ish. Faced 7 targets, only gave up 3 catches. I think checks a lot of the boxes that you are looking for. If you're looking for that next boundary cornerback, I think you have a guy like Jair Hill. DJ Waller certainly there too. I'm going to lean Jair Hill because he's checking a lot of the traits that I want in my boundary cornerbacks.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. That was like kind of the guy you just kind of felt like you almost thought he was going to make a crack at it last year. You saw a little bit early where, again, before we knew how good Josh Wallace was, and Josh Wallace took that, ran with it, and was awesome. So there was no reason to ever think about making any changes there. But as you were kind of thinking, you're looking at the depth chart. All right, who's going to be the guy? You did see some things from Jair Hillis, even in going back into that spring game where he kind of looked the part. I mean, that length, that fluidity, all those things you kind of look for, he had it. And again, I think it's his time now because, again, DJ Waller played a fair amount last year. I thought looks like he might be something. I don't think he's as polished as Jair Hill is yet, and that's why I'm suspecting.
And I think Jair Hill is I would go with just a little bit more gifted. You know what I mean? I think he just has a little bit of that higher end. And, I remember we were all excited about a guy like the blanking on his name, just transferred to Ole Miss. That's crazy because I was super excited. Marion, I was going to call him Marion Miller. We were all excited about Marion Walker. And I think Jair Hill just kind of jumped him on the depth chart, a guy that we were excited about but never really seemed to put it together. You have Jair Hill. I think another just privilege is you're going to be able to give a lot of safety help to whoever is playing that cornerback spot because, hey, Will Johnson, just go take over that half of the field. You'll be all right. And then you can kind of see what you have with this cornerback room, and hey, you can go shade some safeties over there because you got that other side locked down. I think that's the fun spot, Bill. We could probably go for an hour on breakout players. A couple other guys that I would just throw in as honorable mentions. Brandon Hillman, another guy that late get from Notre Dame in that 2023 class. Super excited about him. A lot of names that I'm excited about, but you look at this Michigan defense, you look at this Michigan team, and a lot of people like to just say, oh, they're going to lose, 15-plus NFL draft picks. They ain't going to be that good. I mean, we had 3 guys transfer out of this program. They got a lot of talent waiting in the wings. Really excited about this group. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, would love to hear some breakout candidates from you guys in the comment section, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.